We want to transition now back to the 35W bridge. Our Sky 4 has moved its way from St. Paul from a rally that was happening there on the interstate back over to Minneapolis, where the crowd that started at US Bank Stadium had made its way to 35W. And this is a little hairy situation concerning as we see vehicles, the crowd apparently trying to stop this tanker that has come through. You know, we heard a few seconds ago that the crowd was moving quickly, figuring that this protest might have been done. But this is some frightening video as people try to stop an 18-wheeler.
They're right on top of it, Jeff.
Yes.
You see them climbing on there, and that vehicle now has stopped after trying to move through the interstate and get past these folks, but now stop with people right on top of that cab, Jeff.
And you see in the opposite lane of traffic for 35, just people pleading, yelling at this truck driver to stop moving. And this maybe speaks to that change we saw, Jennifer, in terms of the closures of the interstates around the Twin Cities that was supposed to start later, 8 p.m., I believe you said, now at 5 p.m. But here we are at 5:50, and we have a large semi-truck with a tank on it that was able to make its way apparently through that crowd, if not for the people who stopped it. What else are you seeing, Jennifer?
Sure, and you know, this may have taken some people by surprise, thinking that they had till 8 o'clock, but what I'm seeing right now is that cab door was opened. I'm not sure where that driver is right now, if that driver just came out or if it's somewhere in that, but it looks like someone's now closing the cab of the door of that truck. But people are still hanging on there, opening the door back up. Don't know where this driver is, if he got out, if he's or he or she is okay. But people certainly blocking that truck that made its way onto 35W as people were there marching. That they had been all day and had been kind of in a stationary position until all of a sudden, Jeff, we saw people just kind of flee and move and disperse very quickly, and this very well may have been the reason. And behind it, it looks like there were 1 or 2 other cars as well.
Yeah, we had in our ear from our producer that the crowd seemed to be dispersing, so we weren't sure if it was ready to make a move. And then we see these images of a large truck coming through, and these are the concerns from the beginning that have always been there with these types of protests on the highway. But with the sheer magnitude of this crowd, with the fact that the closures went into place at 5 o'clock, this is not only scary to see, but surprising in terms of the effort that was made to maybe prevent something like this.
Yes.
And it's unclear what we're watching in terms of the crowd of people. I don't know if the driver who was in that truck is in the middle of that crowd, but we did see the door opened, and that
area to the right, Jeff, is concerning right now, where the chopper shot is right now, with that crowd very riled up. You see a lot of movement. We can't tell exactly what's happening in the middle of that group, but a lot of movement, and we see a lot of arm movement. Don't know if that's just thrusts or maybe some just not sure exactly what's happening there, but definitely kind of a chaotic situation right there on the right-hand side of your screen in the front of that cab, Jeff. And
compared to the protests we've seen previously, this would be probably one of the most spontaneous and crazy things we've seen so far in the past several days, with these day protests being mostly peaceful, especially within its own crowd. And the other aspect of this, we're on a bridge. We're not just on the interstate. I mean, there's water below, right, with those barriers where the people are. There's concern there. There's concern with the number of people who were there, the size of this vehicle that came through. I mean, it was just a few seconds ago that it was still moving as people were pleading for it to stop. And we're getting a look now a little bit closer at those who are trying to stop. I mean, Jess, again, look at over the edge. Again, we are on a bridge. The crowd scattering. These are frightening images. Not sure what is going on that is causing people to run. Hopeful that law enforcement can somehow intervene, aware of this situation that's going on. This starting as a peaceful protest, a peaceful march, thousands of people in an effort to kneel. And yes, that is law enforcement. We've seen a couple of Minneapolis police squad cars, Jennifer?
Yeah, 3 squad cars I'm seeing there that looks like tear gas or something else now being sprayed.
I believe mace, some sort of chemical agent.
Yeah, trying to, you know that all too well from the last couple nights, Jeff. But trying to disperse that crowd that we saw that was kind of jumping up and down and their arms flailing. They did get that crowd to move. We don't know exactly what was happening there. David Schumann has been on the street with this crowd all day. David, folks coming towards you now. What are you seeing or hearing as these folks are moving off the interstate and away from that situation?
there's a lot of fear out here, and you guys had a much better look at what actually happened to set all of this off. But as we approached the interstate on-ramp, people were rushing off and even warning us, don't go out there. It's gotten violent. So we are moving towards what it looks to be the middle of everything, trying to figure out what's happening. But you can see we're swimming against traffic here. We're going upriver, and all these people are leaving.
Okay. They got him out the truck.
This man is just telling us, what was it?
They pulled the driver out the gas truck.
That there was
the gas truck ran through the crowd. The gas truck ran through the crowd.
Oh boy. Did it hit anybody?
They ran some people over, bikes.
Oh my God.
They got the driver out the car, bust through the windows and all that shit.
Okay. Well, that man, he just informed us a little bit about what happened. I think you heard. And you know, people aren't running right now, they're walking, but before they certainly were running. And we saw a few emergency vehicles. I'm sure you saw it from the helicopter shot.
And David,
there was emergency vehicles heading up towards this area.
Right, and David, I'm going to stop right there. We do want to apologize for the language that you were hearing on TV. This is obviously live TV in a fluid situation. We are hearing some language that you don't usually hear here on WCCO. But obviously people who are very impassioned, but also a situation that we have just been told that from someone that David was talking to, that they said that driver went through that area, unconfirmed now by the reports of that person, that driver may have struck a few of the people that were marching or stationary on the interstate, but he did say that driver was pulled out of the cab. We will work to confirm that information and find out if there are any injuries from that driver or anyone that could have been potentially hit by a vehicle that made it onto the interstate while marchers were there and after it was supposed to be closed, obviously earlier than it was supposed to be. Jeff, this is, we were watching that together along with our viewers, Jeff, and just kind of a terrifying situation unfold right there on 35W.
Heart-stopping, Jennifer, and by the time we saw it, although, I mean, the truck itself, just the size of it brought fear and the thought of what it could do to people. It wasn't moving that fast, but I've been glancing at Twitter as you've been talking with David. That tanker was not just crawling through the crowd. I've seen video clips from MnDOT cameras on social media showing that it was moving at a decent speed, and you just see the crowd parting like the Red Sea in order to get out of the way of this tanker. And you have to wonder if the people further deep in the crowd had no idea what was coming their way. Again, we just witnessed a tanker truck go through thousands of people peacefully protesting on 35W at a time when the interstate was supposed to have been closed by 5 o'clock. It was just a few minutes ago, David was talking about someone on the streets of Minneapolis concerned that they might have had their leg run over by a driver and people working to get the license plate of that car. And we just witnessed this happen.
Yeah, Jeff, I have to say this was just incredibly disturbing, and for anyone who was with us watching, you saw it unfold just as we did, as this is dramatically changing by the minute, and definitely hard to watch, to see what we just saw. You know, a chaotic crowd, a truck going down the interstate where there were thousands, we believe, of people peacefully protesting. We are hearing police there now. They were not there when this all happened, but showed up soon after. David Schumann's camera's there on the left. He is on the street with photographer Aaron Goodyear showing us what's happening. But also on the right there, seeing what's on the interstate, the overhead shot.
The police officers came on here. There's more coming on now. It looks like they're spraying out of their vehicles, coming up on us on our left. They are dispersing the crowd here and pushing everybody back. And here comes an armored vehicle down onto the on-ramp. People are climbing down off the freeway on-ramp.
That is incredible.
Jumping over fences, falling down this hill. We're going to climb over as well.
The speed at which people are trying to escape from this situation. David, have you had a chance to talk with any more people? I know it's been quite hectic to get a sense of what's going on. Actually, I'll just let you continue describing this ever-developing moment.
But they are literally throwing, they're literally throwing their bikes over the fence right now and like diving themselves into underbrush off the side of the highway. And now we're seeing more law enforcement come by.
Yeah, National Guard there.
This is such a sudden departure. Yeah, this is such a sudden departure of the way things have been all afternoon. And now officers on bicycles rather. They're spraying into the crowds, trying to get off of the on-ramp.
And here's that video, Jennifer.
And
oh my gosh, the speed at which that truck approached, and even some of the brave people attempting to slow it down. And then look at how quickly they tried to get close to stop him or stop the driver.
And how do you stop? You know, that's a vehicle there, a sizable vehicle going there right in the middle of the interstate. Jeff, that came up. We didn't see that initially. First time we're seeing that truck go that fast, not slowly crawling or anything like that, but going pretty fast into that crowd and then coming to a stop. But you're seeing kind of that mob of people then really gathering tightly together. Oh, here it is again.
And the length, the distance it takes to slow down a vehicle like that, not knowing the weight of the load it's carrying, we're talking potentially hundreds of feet.
Right.
And there are thousands of people out there.
Yeah, Jeff, and then after that, we were seeing from our different vantage point, the cab door being opened and closed and opened and closed, so unsure of where that driver is, looking like people clearly were upset that semi came down the interstate where they had been peacefully protesting. I mean, it's just parting the ways as you see it just go right there. Clearly a dangerous situation that unfolded right there. Right before our eyes, Jeff.
And when you consider the images we've seen since Tuesday in terms of destruction, fright, things we'll never forget, and here we had a peaceful protest that even law enforcement was allowing to happen, and this is one of the first times we've seen a major disruption, and it was to a level where lives, if not thousands of lives, were at stake. And here's a live picture now. You see how much, a little bit, I'm not live just a few minutes earlier, but you see how much further I believe that truck continued to go, because that does not, where we see the truck right now, in this video from a few minutes ago, does not look like where it stopped in that MnDOT camera picture. It appears maybe the truck might have moved further. And then you mentioned, Jennifer, the cab door opened. We saw what appeared to be a crowd or mob of sorts around that person, their arms flailing. We're not sure what they were doing or how they were interacting with that driver potentially. But I'm sure feelings of fright and anger for someone to come through what was a peaceful protest